Good morning and welcome to the launch event of ACCESSIBILITECH, where we are going to present the first version of our mapping tool for technology accessible in telework, e-learning, and online care. The event provides English International Sign Language and also captioning. So please, if you need subtitle, enable this utility in your Zoom browser. I'm Antonio Ingelmo. I work in Fundación 11, that is the leader of the accessibility project. Today's event, first I will do a short introduction of accessibility project. Then we will have a speech about European Union accessibility legislation from European Commission. After that, we will show how the mapping tool works and its main utilities. And then the members of the consortium that is running ACCESSIBILITECH will explain us how ACCESSIBILITECH benefit to the stakeholders they represent. After that, my colleagues from communication will announce the upcoming project events. And finally, we will have time to questions the audience, to answer the audience questions. So please, to the audience, from any time from now, you are invited to do any questions you want about the project. You can send the question to the chat. In case the question is directed to a particular speaker, please indicate their name on the chat. And now, to present the project, I'm going to play a video about ACCESSIBILITECH. Please, video.
Are you a programmer, designer, or developer? Are you looking to recruit a person with a disability, but are unsure what technological adaptations their job will require? Do you have any special needs when using technology at work, when studying, or for health reasons? We tend to think of technology being used for one thing only. However, it is used in many different ways and for many different purposes. Some people need assistive products to access technology. European legislation insists that products and services be designed and manufactured so that they can be used by people with disabilities. Although considerable progress has been made and many accessible solutions exist, there are still barriers and tools that provide incomplete or inadequate solutions. For example, video conferencing applications with no subtitles or with no way for blind people to perceive the content displayed on screen. It can often be hard to find reliable information on accessibility solutions that genuinely work. If you search the internet, you will certainly get a lot of hits, but how do you know if the information is reliable? ACCESSIBILITECH was created with the aim of creating a tool to identify, analyze, disseminate and transfer innovative, accessible and inclusive technologies in the realms of teleworking, e-learning and telecare at European level. It also seeks to create a cooperative space for exchanging and validating information and accessible solutions. Thanks to the knowledge that will be generated over the course of the project, we want to make proposals to improve the implementation of accessibility standards within European legislation, while working alongside the technology sector. ACCESSIBILITECH is a project developed by ONCE Foundation, Incerta Innovation, Digital Europe, and the European Association of Service Providers for People with Disabilities. It also relies on the support of the European Disability Forum, Philanthropy Europe Association, and Social Economy Europe. ACCESSIBILITECH has received funding from the European Union under the Rights, Equality and Citizenship Programme 2014 to 2020. The information contained in this video does not necessarily reflect the official opinion of the European Commission.
Well, I hope you enjoy the video. Actually, today is this video's premiere because it's the first time we play officially in public. ACCESSIBILITECH, as any other project on accessibility, has been preceded by intensive effort from European Commission to guarantee the rights of the persons with disabilities. This has created legislation framework that promotes initiatives on accessibility, such as ACCESSIBILITECH. But to talk about European Commission's works on policies, I'm happy to pass the floor to Inmaculada Placencia. Inmaculada is Senior Expert in Disability and Inclusion Unit of the Directorate General for Employment, Social Affairs and Inclusion of the European Commission. Please, Inmaculada.
Good morning, and thank you very much, Antonio. This is a great initiative that you pulled together this workshop in order to raise awareness and share the work done until now by ACCESSIBILITECH. Indeed, I work in the Commission and I'm responsible for this project that is being financed, as Antonio said, from the SERV program. So very briefly, I would like to tell you where we stand on accessibility at the European level. What are the priorities in our agenda, and some of the key highlights for the coming years. We have been working on accessibility for quite a number of years. The previous disability strategy had a clear focus on accessibility that culminated with the adoption and of the European Accessibility Act, which is, as you might know, a directive that requires accessibility of certain products and services, and it also puts accessibility requirements for public procurement and other union acts. In parallel, there has been quite a number of accessibility legislation being developed. We have accessibility legislation in transport. In the area of ICT, we have seen the Web Accessibility Directive, but also provisions of accessibility in audiovisual media, legislation in electronic communication services, in the e-signatures regulation, and even we have some accessibility provisions related to the built environment. The legislation on public procurement has been a major achievement, because it requires whatever is being going to be used by persons, whether members of the public or the staff of the contracting authorities, that is being bought accessible. So basically, products and services and infrastructures have to be bought accessible by public authorities. Of course, we have some research initiatives continuing and stepping up some of the research work on accessibility, and there is also work on continuous work on standardization. So a lot of initiatives, and that brings us to a situation in which we need really implementation. We need to support stakeholders to implement accessibility and to be knowledgeable. Professionals need to be knowledgeable on accessibility, but also we need that the general public that needs or is concerned with accessibility will be using, will be knowledgeable to implement this accessibility. So this is the context in which we are now we have a lot of legislations, a lot of policies, and the priority that we have today is focusing on that implementation. That is why the strategy on the adopted in March last year, the strategy for the rights of persons with disabilities 2021-2030 focuses on these issues. It puts accessibility as an enabler of rights, as an enabler of autonomy and equality, and lists the comprehensiveness of European instruments, also referring to copyright legislation, but in addition, pointing to the use of EU funds that require also in many cases the use of or the respect and enforcement and ensuring accessibility. Now, to that focus that I mentioned on implementation and enforcement of the legislation is reflected in the strategy by the launching of a flagship initiative that is being called Accessible EU. This year we are working on its launch, and the idea is to have a resource center that would increase the coherence of accessibility policies across the Union and facilitate access to knowledge. The intention is really to have a place where cooperation among national stakeholders can share good practices, can inspire each other, can have common understanding of what accessibility means and what accessibility provisions in EU policies and legislation are, and also can stimulate the participation of these stakeholders in standardization processes. We expect to launch this initiative at the end of the year. In addition, we have some let's say specific actions like the evaluation of the Web Accessibility Directive, the report, a very interesting report, an important report about how to implement the provisions on accessibility in public procurement, how to address accessibility in the digital governance, quite a number of initiatives related to transport, to passenger transport rights, and how to have a common coverage of accessibility across transport different modes of transport, and include accessibility in sustainable mobility planning. I would like to finish by saying that the Commission also in this strategy commits to the use of European standards for its own accessibility, digital accessibility, but also physical accessibility, not only for employees with disabilities at the Commission, but also for the public when interacting with the public with disabilities. So now going to this project, we have a lot of expectations because this project is meant to bring together a lot of knowledge, a lot of information that could be really very useful for the implementation of accessibility in Europe, facilitate, as the video says, also for employers, for in the context of education, in the context of procurement, the implementation of accessibility. So I thank you for your attention, and I look forward to the meeting today, to the exchanges today, and I wish you an interesting meeting. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Inmaculada. Certainly, all the directives you mentioned, and of course the European Accessibility Act, for sure encourage designers, developers, providers that use technology to create accessible, inclusive products and services. This will benefit not only persons with disability, but also the elderly people. For sure, we will do our best in Accessibilitech to help European Commission to make technology in general more accessible, not only for people with disabilities, but also for the rest of the people. Now, I pass the floor to my colleague, Enrique Garcia. Enrique is an accessibility expert consultant at Inserta Innovation. Enrique is going to show us how Accessibilitech Map Tool works, how it's been designed and tested, and how can others get involved with it. Please, Enrique, go ahead.
Thank you very much, Antonio. Hello, everybody. Good morning. It's a pleasure to me be here with you today. I am Enrique Garcia, as Antonio said, and I have coordinated the creation of the mapping tool that we are going to present. During this month, we have been working with sources. I mean, large repositories of projects that will allow artificial intelligence to have good and bad examples in order to filter and categorize the projects that interest us in the three known areas: e-learning, telework, and telecare, by means of an automatic algorithm. As a complement to this, we have used keywords from the accessibility and disability fields, as well as from the three areas, to help the algorithm find projects in different stages of maturity. And now I have the pleasure to show you the first complete version of the Accessibilitech map of accessible technologies. At the moment, we are polishing the functionality and accessibility of the platform. Do you want to know a more exact date? I will give it to you at the end of my speech. Marian, please transport us to the accessibility website to discover the mapping tool together. Now, we are on the accessibility website, where a new version is being prepared at the moment to host all of the activities that we will share this year with the European community. By clicking on the mapping tool, we access to the manual form. My colleagues, Marian and Natalie, will be putting the link in the chat at this moment. Since last November, many companies, university research groups, and individuals have added their project manually, making sure that they can be part of the mapping tool launch and helping with their contributions to make the algorithm search better in the different repositories. We have tried to make the information to be entered to register a project as easy and simple as possible, including as mandatory only the data necessary for the search algorithm to improve its procedure when performing different searches. Although this feature goes beyond the scope of the project, in order to improve the performance of our algorithm, it is allowed to include projects from outside Europe as well as from other categories than e-learning, telework, or telecare, but always respecting that they are projects that improve the possibilities of people with disability in society. When the projects are sent and collected by the system, we can access the intranet where all these projects are shown, in order to evaluate them and later insert them in the public map, if they comply with the characteristics of accessibility, category, state of maturity, and real improvement of people with disability. To facilitate the evaluator's work, the intranet has different filters, either by category, automatic repository or manual insertion, current status, or country to which it belongs. For each project, its description is shown. What is its source, date of creation, updates, as well as a probability in which the algorithm tells us if that project is close to what we are looking for. In order not to lose track of the different evaluators, in the case of rejected projects, a comment is included as to why it was rejected and who did it. The system also has the option to search for a project in its public part, in case you want to see your project or another project in detail. You can see the project in detail, but if you are an evaluator, you can also edit if you have any wrong data or if it has not been categorized correctly. In the public part, we have a map where when a project is approved from the intranet, the geolocated position of this project is directly established on our map. If you allow me, we go to Spain, my country, and we can find projects in different cities like Madrid, Valencia, and Barcelona. If you click on the location icon, as you see, you can find the title of the project and the option to open the detail sheet. But we need this technology will be accessible. So we have put the same information in a list format with the information of the project, as you can see in the left part of this map. We included only 5 projects per page to focus the main information in the project. And now you can see a detail of one project, Envision AI. If you are an evaluator, as I said before, you can change different details of these projects, add a new country or add a company and include a location of the project, as you see now, sorry. If we finish the changes and we save, we can come back to the map and search other projects. As like in the intranet, we can filter the map with different filters, like Telecare, e-learning, or Telework, or the country. It was a surprise for us to find more accessible projects that we expect, because we think that we don't find projects in accessibility mode than we find. So that is the public part of the map, and with that part we finish the presentation of the mapping tool. But first, we are going to come back to the new project part. A new detail project again, with more information about the project need. And as I said, we come back to the manual form page. It's important for us that you still include different projects in our database to improve the performance of our algorithm. So it's really important to continue to include your projects or other projects in the system. Remember that we have an automatic algorithm, and we are going to include projects every moment, every time. And now it's your turn. Haven't you included your project yet in the mapping tool so that all Europe can know about it? My colleagues, Marian and Natalie, put the link in the chat of this session, so you have no excuse. Thank you all very much. Oh, just a moment, the date. When will the map be able for everybody? The accessibility mapping tool will be launched next March. Now, Antonio, the floor is yours again.
Thank you, Enrique, for this illustrative presentation of accessibility project. When we plan a project on accessibility, it's very important to choose the best partners. And I believe in ACCESSIBILITECH, we have achieved this. We engage the organizations in Europe that best represent the industrial sector and the social sector. And this is the added value for ACCESSIBILITECH. Today we have representatives from our partners and associates. Now they will explain us how the stakeholders they represented can benefit from ACCESSIBILITECH. So please first let me to introduce to Jose Ucero. Jose is Senior Project Manager at Digital Europe. Hello, Jose. Please,
good morning, Antonio.
Please, could you tell us how ACCESSIBILITECH engage with the European digitally transforming industry you represent?
Yeah, no problem. Let me explain that Digital Europe is really representing most of the key players of the ICT industry. We have almost 100 members and also 40 national trade associations in different EU countries and beyond. And the idea, our objective for participating in the ACCESSIBILITECH project really is to gather more information and to know more about the policy, legislation, and standardization context regarding inclusion and accessibility. And also really in the context of ACCESSIBILITECH, it is important as you are going to gather good practices and cases of success in implementing accessible technologies. It is important for our members to understand what are the good practices in accessibility and how to benchmark that with the idea of really developing more and more accessible products and services. This is more or less our objective, and really if we consider that in the last 2 years, due to the COVID-19 pandemic situation, the access to many different ICT products and services has been, let's say, maximized, let's say e-learning or e-health, etc. It is more important than ever to ensure that these ICT services and products are more accessible, so we do not create an extra barrier for people with disabilities or other people at risk of exclusion.
Thank you, Jose. In a moment like now, when Europe is immersed in a process of digital transformation, we hope ACCESSIBILITECH can contribute to improve the accessibility and inclusiveness for the technologies. For us, Digital Europe is a great contribution because you are the largest organization that represents the digital industry in Europe, and that's why you play an important role to achieve most of the ACCESSIBILITECH objectives, the same as the rest of the partners. So thank you for your participation, Jose.
Thank you, Antonio. We are glad to be part of the project.
Let me now to introduce to Miguel Buitrabo. Miguel, he's a research and development officer at the European Association of Service Providers for People with Disabilities. Miguel, we would like to know how can ACCESSIBILITECH and ESPD benefit mutually each other?
Yep. Good morning. Thank you very much for the introduction and the invitation to participate today. As Antonio has said, I represent the ASPD in this project. I would like to introduce a little bit of our organization. The ASPD is a non-for-profit NGO in the disability sector that promotes the vision of more than 15,000 social services and their umbrella organizations. We believe that support services play a fundamental role in enabling people to enjoy their human rights on equal basis, regardless of disability or any other factor. This has been the belief that has been the engine of our work in Brussels and across Europe. Related to the question, just to put in context, one of our objectives in the ASPD is the full implementation of the UNCRPD that has been ratified by the European member states, and several strategies and directives have been put in place, as was stated before, and we fully embrace. We also aim to achieve high-quality community-based services that promote the institutionalization to ensure independent living and social inclusion, and fair working conditions and lifelong learning opportunities for staff employed in care services. And we recognize that technology and accessibility represent a great resource for the achievement of these goals, and pursuing innovation to improve services and life of service users. If you understand that this project seeks to identify, analyze, and disseminate the innovative practices in the field of accessibility technology for persons with disabilities, we believe that it will be undoubtedly become a valuable and reliable database of solutions and good practices that will serve EASPD and its members, not only to reflect on digitization, but also in what is needed and what's the way forward. Base or for the deepening of our work of increasing accessibility to improve services so that people with disabilities can live independently with employment and education. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Miguel. The support of ASPD is the best guarantee that the current and future service provider will use accessible technology to create their products and services. And that's why for us it was very important to have engaged with our organization. Thanks again to Miguel for your organization's contribution to the project.
Thanks to you.
Mm-hmm. And now I introduce to Alejandro Moredo. Alejandro is policy coordinator at the European Disability Forum. And Alejandro, we would like to know how accessibility can contribute to improve the quality of life of persons with disability regarding EDF's values and strategies.
Thank you very much, and good morning, everyone. Well, for EDF, you know, EDF, the European Disability Forum, I will just give a little bit of an introduction to our organization for those who may not know us. EDF is the umbrella organization, is the organization of organizations representing persons with disabilities at European level. So we gather over 100 organizations working in the disability field. Our full members are, for example, those European NGOs representing different disability groups, such as the European Blind Union, European Union of the Deaf, Autism Europe, or Inclusion Europe, people with intellectual disabilities, and then those organizations at national level that also represent the disability movement in their country. So we bring together the European disability movement, and our main goal is obviously to make sure that as Miguel said, that the EU and all member states as state parties to the UN Convention on the Rights of Persons with Disabilities actually implement the convention and adopt legislation that ensure that persons with disabilities, over 100 million persons with disabilities in Europe, enjoy equal rights. And one of these rights is obviously accessibility, which is a precondition to enjoy the rest of rights enshrined in the convention. So we've been very, very active in the past years on all the initiatives concerning accessibility that Inmaculada has mentioned at the beginning. And to do so, we have like a twin track approach. On one hand, we focus on those legislations or those policies concerning persons with disabilities, like, for example, the European Accessibility Act that it was mentioned, or the Web Accessibility Directive, or all the standardization mandates that have created different technical documents in support of legislation on public procurement or web accessibility, built environment, and so forth. But then, and this is very important, we also work on mainstreaming accessibility in other sectorial legislation. And this is very important because sometimes you have specific legislation addressing a particular sector, let's say health, let's say employment, let's say education. And it's important to ensure that there is a link and there is an obligation of having accessibility as part of this sectorial policy. In these sectorial policies, for example, related to the topic of today's presentations and the project, we work on the proposed regulation for artificial intelligence, for example, promoting that artificial intelligence, like in accessibility tech, is used to support independent living of persons with disabilities and to enhance accessibility. We work on digital ID, we work on digital platforms, on a different range of policies concerning digital, in which we always make sure that accessibility is a strong obligation. Otherwise, we will fall short, and we'll have some technologies that will represent a barrier for us, for persons with disabilities. And I believe that our role in the project is obviously to spread the word and to let all our members know, and persons with disabilities all over Europe, about this source of reliable information, because in the end, this project is tackling one of the first barriers that we encounter when we try to find technology that is suitable for us. So we need quality information. And in these three areas that the project is tackling, telework, e-learning, and telecare, we do find barriers to access the most suitable solution for us, whether this is an accessibility piece of mainstream technology or a piece of assistive technology. In employment, for example, even though we have legislation on employment, we have the 2000 Employment Equality Directive that should ensure that at member state level, when you are employed, there will be provision of reasonable accommodation to you. And we see that this is not fully implemented, unfortunately, in all member states. And many times the employer doesn't have the information to know what's out there, and what could be the employer and the employee, what's out there and what could be actually useful for the person with disability to work on an equal basis. We've seen that, for example, the COVID-19 situation, and as Jose mentioned, has kind of pushed us all to work from home. And now something that was a demand for many people with disabilities before, the possibility to work from home, also work-life balance, and also, as a means of reasonable accommodation, was not possible before. The pandemic made this possible, unfortunately, obviously, but the positive side is that indeed it made it possible for many people to finally be able to work from home. And it's important in this regard that we allow the technology to support this. So because there is a trend that this kind of hybrid mode of working will continue in the future. So having this information on the different solutions for telework is of high importance. And same goes for e-learning. We've seen that many schools were suddenly changing to digital environments, and we'll see that this will continue. So we also, in order to support inclusive education, we also need accessible digital environments, whether at home or in the classroom. So in many cases, the schools are the ones providing the assistive technology to their students with disabilities, and they may not have the capacity to search online for the most appropriate solution. So in this sense, accessibility tech will provide a very good source of information for them. And finally, the role of assistive technologies and other accessible solutions in health, in telehealth and telecare is important. We see that now the EU is increasingly taking more responsibilities and more initiatives concerning health. So again, having a corpus of information on what are the solutions out there for persons with disabilities would be of great importance. It is important to mention also that in the disability strategy, and I will conclude with this, in the disability strategy that Inma was presenting before, there is a kind of like a hidden action on evaluating the assistive technologies market by 2023. And one of the barriers that we see in the assistive technology market is that it's not a real internal market in the EU as for other products and services that you can buy anywhere in the EU. We are very proud of having this single European market. However, for assistive technology, this is not the case. We have different certification schemes, different delivery systems and provision systems at national level. So sometimes persons with disabilities cannot access the most suitable piece of assistive technologies for them because of all these kind of legal and administrative barriers. But a previous barrier is precisely to find the most suitable piece of assistive technology. And I think this is one of the most potential good outcomes of accessibility tech that we will, from EDF, we will promote. So the possibility to search and find this quality information on solution that might be the best for you. So we will remain obviously active and promoting all the outcomes of the project. And we thank you very much for inviting EDF to be part of today's discussion. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Alejandro. Disability, European Disability Forum's perspective is actually an asset to ACCESSIBILITECH. Since you represent most of the organizations of persons with disability in Europe, you, as you said, you have also contributed to improve European inclusive and accessible technologies. I know you are also helping to implement the European Accessibility Act that previously Inmaculada Placencia has introduced us. Actually, I'm glad to, and thanks to, I thank to you, because you, in just a short period of time, you have described very well most of the barriers and difficulty that people with disability faces in the three main areas of our project. So for sure, I will ask you to participate in the future events. I agree with you that the pandemic was a very hard time. If people with disability traditionally faced barriers, these barriers became more severe and bigger with the pandemic. Actually, you mentioned these 3 areas where the users have the barrier, and that's the reason because accessibility focus in these 3 areas, because we realized they were the most 3 critical areas: e-learning, telework, and online care. So thanks again, Alejandro, for your contribution. And now, let me introduce to Sara Bonbiardelli. Hi, Sara. Sara is a policy and communication assistant at Social Economy Europe. Please, Sara, we would like to know how about the interest of your organization and about your contribution to Accessibility Tech project.
Thank you so much. And yeah, I'm a policy and communication assistant at Social Economy Europe. So I will start by introducing a little bit what Social Economy Europe is. So Social Economy Europe is an umbrella organization. It's the voice of 2.8 million of social economy enterprises and organizations in the European Union. It is the only EU organization representing the general interest of all social economy actors as cooperatives, mutuals, associations, foundations, social enterprises, among other organizational forms. Furthermore, Social Economy Europe as a working group on social economy and disability that is promoting by our member Filia with the support of ONCE Social Group. The question I will focus on today is how social economy actors can contribute to the inclusion of people with disabilities. So if we look at the Social Economy Action Plan that was officially launched in December 16th, it is possible to acknowledge that among the social economy entities, there are work integration social enterprises, whose focus is particularly on providing work opportunities for disadvantaged people, including people with disabilities. So in short, the social economy is likely to build bridges for persons with disabilities to employment in the open labor market. And this will foster their inclusion in society and their independence. Data showed that social economy enterprises and organizations employed up to 5 times more than traditional enterprises people with disabilities. In this sense, Social Economy Europe and its members, in collaboration with the ONCE Foundation, have drafted a best practices guide in 2019, titled Social Economy for the Full Inclusion of People with Disabilities, during the negotiations for the draft of the European Disability Strategy post-2020, as Ms. Placencia mentioned, on the basis of 12 initiatives spread all over the Union. The guide aimed at sharing good practices in the fields of employment, training, education, services, and accessibility. More precisely, the guide emphasized the synergies between disability and social economy. In fact, by fostering social economy and its potential, it is possible to attain the targets contained in the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development. In particular, target 8.5, that is, I quote, the achievement of full and productive employment and decent work for all women and men, including for young people and persons with disabilities, and equal pay for work of equal value by 2030. Furthermore, Social Economy Europe has been cooperating with the CHOVES, that is the West Pomeranian Network of Social Economy Support Centers in Poland, to write a guide on accessible tourism using good practices from within the social economy sector. And in March 2021, this collaboration was strengthened because 5 study visits were carried out in visiting organizations comprising a variety of activities which fit the criteria of being a social economy entity. All these activities were focusing on the employment or accessibility of people with disabilities. The guide on accessible tourism was released in December 2021. For the moment is in Polish, but it will soon translate it into English. So, having said that, it is possible to see how Social Economy Europe is engaged in promoting social economy for the inclusion of people with disabilities. It is for this reason that Social Economy Europe decided to support ACCESSIBILITECH project, as it promotes the inclusion of people with disabilities through the use of digital technologies. This project, by being in accordance with the European Pillar of Social Rights, along with the willingness to pave the way for a digital transition, it is a great opportunity for social economy entities to contribute and demonstrate that social economy potential in the digital sector can help to achieve a better inclusion for people with disabilities. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you, Sarah. Certainly, Social Economy Europe is contributing to accessibility, which you are experiencing in social and labor inclusion for people with disability. That's the reason because Social Economy Europe is a key partner to accessibility, because it connects us with the social economy and enterprises working in the social field in Europe. So thanks for your speech, and also thanks for your contribution and Social Economy Europe contributions. And now let me to introduce to Leticia Manzoni. Hello, Leticia. Leticia is the Thematic Networks Coordinator of Philanthropy Europe Association, PHILEA. Leticia, please tell us how can ACCESSIBILITECH matches PHILEA's activities?
With pleasure. Thank you very much, Antonio, and good morning to everyone. As Antonio said, I work at the PHILEA, the Philanthropy Europe Association, and let me just say very briefly what PHILEA is, because it's a very recently born organization, and is an organization that was born following a participatory process in the course of 2021 that saw the former European Foundation Center and the former Donors and Foundations Network in Europe converging into PHILEA at the end of 2021. And so PHILEA was created against the backdrop of a polycrisis, which has deeply affected every part of our world and has demanded new ways of working for philanthropy. So by bringing together the 200+ foundation members of the former European Foundation Center with the 30 national associations, which themselves represent over 10,000 foundations, we aim at creating a stronger and inclusive voice for the sector and to strengthen its ability to do good. And PHILEA is the voice of European philanthropy, and it's here to collaborate, to work together with a variety of stakeholders, to share knowledge, to foster collaboration, to inspire and to be inspired, and to strengthen the ecosystem and to increase the visibility and to build bridges. And at the heart of Filea's mission is to harness the immense power of European philanthropy. And one of our values is inclusion and diversity. So Filea is committed to continue working with disability funders across Europe to make sure that nobody is left behind. I am very fortunate also because I coordinate the Disability Thematic Network of Filea, which is a community. It's a network for funders, for sharing, for learning, for communicating about disabilities, for catalyzing expertise in the field of disability, and ultimately to mainstreaming disability in the work of the philanthropic sector in general. So we would love to see that disability is considered as a fundamental element in every program, in every project, in every strategy that the philanthropic institutions carry out. And that is what we work towards every day. So as I said, Filea is a place for philanthropic institutions working on disability to meet, to connect and build together a stronger support system for persons with disabilities. And we believe that the ACCESSIBILITECH project can help us in doing this. Because by sharing the knowledge and the information about the technology and the solutions for e-learning, for teleworking and telecare, we are able to get closer to the end user and to the people that need these services. And these communities are also the communities that the philanthropic sector seeks to serve. So to have this kind of tool speaks really to the needs of the end user and adapts to its needs. Is fundamental, and this is why Filea is delighted, and we are delighted to be partnering in this project. And we do hope that our help and our contribution will support the spread and in the use of this tool to everybody in Europe and beyond. I will stop there. So thank you very much for having us here. It's really a pleasure.
Thank you, Leticia. For sure, your contribution is very important for the project. I think it's great having philanthropic organizations working on social equality and justice and any other rights related to persons with disabilities. For us, it's very important to have the perspective of Fileas in the project. And also, we are glad, especially having you in ACCESSIBILITECH, because you, as you mentioned, you are coordinator of some works and especially the work related with disability. So for sure, we will continue asking you for support and help to accessibility project. So thanks again for your intervention and Filea's contribution in the project. So thanks again to all partners for your insight. In 2022, ACCESSIBILITECH is planning a series of events and activities. My colleague Natalie Gonzalez, which is in charge of the communications of the project, will give us some details about this activity. Please, Natalie, go ahead.
Hi, I'm Natalie Gonzalez. I am the project manager of ACCESSIBILITECH. I have hearing disability, and because of it, I may have trouble pronouncing some words in English. So I'm going to speak slowly, but if there is something that I say that is not clear to you, please let me know. Well, we want to invite you to join us again on March 15th at a workshop we are organizing about accessible technological solutions for e-learning. We will be talking about accessible solutions for e-learning different needs and expectations of students with disabilities, and enrich of inclusion, among other topics. Then in April 19, there will be a workshop about telework, and in May 18, another one on Telecare. Additionally, in June, we will have an exciting event, which is a hackathon on inclusive and accessible technologies. The details about this event will be posted in our website very soon. You can check the link on the chat. Also, we would like to ask you for your collaboration in completing a survey that will help us improve the project. We want to know what are your needs and experiences of regarding accessible technological solution for persons with disabilities. Your feedback is very important for us. The survey is available in Spanish and English, and the links are also in the chat. Now I'm going to pass the floor to my colleague Marianne, who's going to moderate the Q&A session that is coming up next. Thank you.
Thank you, Natalie. And now is the time for you, the audience. Marian Palancas, my colleague, who is going to moderate the next session, will read out all questions that has been sent to the chat. Please, Marian, go ahead. Thank you.
Thank you, Antonio. Hi, everyone. So to end the event, we are let's read some questions that have been related to the accessibility project. Let's see what the speakers have to say and how ACCESSIBILITECH may give a solution to these questions. So one of these questions is the EU has recently developed key legislation and policies concerning accessibility. For example, the European Accessibility Act. What role the ACCESSIBILITECH project play in supporting these policies? I think that maybe Alejandro would like to answer this question.
Hello. Yeah, no, sure. Yes, indeed, the European Accessibility Act and other legislation, one of the key requirements we always try to suggest to the European Parliament and to the Commission and the Council to incorporate is the provision of information to the user. And the Accessibility Act is very clear in this. If you look at the annex of the directive, in which you can see all the accessibility statements, you'll see that for products and for services, there is always the provision of information about the product and the service, and also about the accessibility of the product and of the service. So in this regard, the Commission, as Inma mentioned, will soon, well, they are finalizing a new standardization mandate, meaning that the Commission is asking the European standards organizations to come up with technical standards that could prove the compliance with the legislation. So in that sense, once we develop this standard, and hopefully EDF, we would like to be involved in the development of this standard, and we want our members to be involved as well. We will need to emphasize this aspect of information and quality information for users with disabilities, for persons with disabilities. And I believe having the accessibility tech example could be very useful when trying to ensure that the information is of relevance for the user, because many times we are just provided with it's accessible, and then you receive the answer like, what is accessibility, or what do you mean, or of course it's accessible, just take it, but meaning accessibility as availability. So we believe that having this this standard with the support of specific examples that for sure the accessibility tech can bring will facilitate very much our work in the development of these policies. Also, as Inma mentioned as well, the creation of this accessible EU knowledge center on accessibility. It will be in support of the all this legislation we have on accessibility. This center will rely also on databases and the solutions that they can find. So I believe that the project can also play an important role there. I hope I answered the question.
Yeah, thank you so much, Alejandro, for your answer. Well, I encourage all the assistants, if they have any other question, you can also write them right now in the chat. And we have also another question. How can we ensure a complete and beneficial alignment of the social services sector and assistance with the digital transformation process without leaving anyone behind? If any speaker would like to answer.
Maybe I could try to give some answer to that. Well, I believe that ensuring beneficial alignment of social services with the digitalization process is undoubtedly linked to empowering and supporting people with disabilities to have equal access to digital platforms, as well as opportunities for education, work, and development, and fully enjoy their human rights. But also, it needs support for the service providers so that they could have lifelong learning opportunities, chances to continue improving their skills so that they can provide the needed assistance to the persons with disability. It's important to understand that technological development can be an opportunity or a threat. It can further widen or narrow the gap between people. It can create inclusion or exclusion. So technological development that leaves no one behind could lead to more sustainable communities, as before was being stated, where all members of the society have a role and their contributions are valued. But for that, it's needed to increase the possibility of all people to access opportunities of work, education, etc. Well, I hope it answered a little bit.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Miguel. So I think that we don't have more questions at the moment. So just I encourage you to be aware of all the following events that we are organizing in the Accessibility Tech, so you can be updated to this information in the webpage that is already in the chat. And also to encourage you, if you know any accessible technology, or you're also a developer, or you provide any of these services, to include this information and projects in the ACCESSIBILITECH Mapping Tool, as my colleagues were explaining before. And also we hope to see you in the following events, and we hope that these contents are enriching for you. And well, I think that's all, Antonio.
Thanks. Thanks, Marian. Thanks to the audience for the questions, and to the partner for the answers. So now it's time to end the event. I hope you have found interesting, and as Marian said, we will ask you, please kindly answer with your opinion at the survey after closing the event, and also as Kike, Enrique, and Marian and Natalie said, please, we will also invite you to participate in the survey about accessible technology, and your solutions in the mapping tool to be visible in the platform. I hope we can meet again in the following events, and just again invite you all to be involved in accessibility projects. You can do it in our web page, and also email after the after the event, we will keep inform you of all activities we are planning from Accessibility. And this is all from now. Thank you again for your attendance.